Oh, look who's back, Fengi grumbled, as she walked through the door to the grand hall, Saf and Essie close on her heels. Balathon and Heron were apparently on kitchen duty today. Balathon was just finishing setting the tables, while Heron was carrying in a pot of what Saf suspected was a stew of some kind. They were using all the tables and benches today, with all their extra guests, so there were likely extra people in the kitchens too. No, he's not that bad, Essie protested, once they'd all made it inside the hall proper. And he was wounded fighting alongside Saf here. Some respect is in order. Saf winced a little at the memory. The sound of the snapping chain still burned into her mind. That is true. And he was useful in the city, after all. Never said he wasn't useful, Fengi retorted. Just annoying, and an arsehole at times. Just ask Jackie about that last one, Saf added, as they started looking for a place to sit. Well, he got humbled quite a bit after that. Maybe the second humbling is what he needed, Essie replied with a smile that was just a bit too wide. That was when the recognizable voice of Jackie rang out from across the room, the tall woman waving at them and jogging over. There you are, you work-shy bastards. Took you long enough. Like you would want to be the one to show an inquisitor around, Saf joked, receiving a slight poke from Fengi. They're everywhere right now, be respectful, the small one whispered in a hard tone, her eyes glancing around. Right, anyway, so Mum got a lot of new tools. She's damn near losing it right now, I think. I'm guessing inquisitorial hammers are up to standard then? Essie asked with a chuckle, her smile turning more genuine. Oh, you bet. So, all good with a drill? You don't have to keep her company at night? Jackie asked, looking at Fengi with a rather genuine look of concern on her face. Yeah, she's good. I could use a proper meal. Oh, please. Campfire food ain't that bad, Saf protested with a smile. No, but this is better. Well, I think food should be about ready, Essie said, taking the lead, the rest of them going to follow towards the big pot. I think it might get a little tight today. They had all gotten their meals and gone to sit down at the Huntress table. Essie had been proven right, as a couple of guards from both Galaxa and Archon came over to sit at their table. Well, this is cozy, Saf chuckled, as Fengi scooted a bit closer to make room. I guess you got the company you wanted. Yeah, I love you too, Fengi sighed with a smile, taking another bite. Anyone seen Tom yet? Jackie added, as the dinner conversation started picking up around them. Haven't seen him for a bit. What's the matter, Jackie? Afraid he's alone with his new personal assistant? Saf chuckled mischievously. Who? Essie asked, looking around at them. Tom's latest headache, I guess, Saf chuckled, glancing at Jackie, who was herself also busy looking around the room. Right on cue, Jelena strode into the room with a rather tired-looking Tom following, Adita hot on his heels, and there he is. Well, Jackie, I don't think you need to worry much there. He looks sick of her already, Saf chuckled, taking another bite of food. Still, she is very friendly, Jackie replied in a skeptical tone, tracking the eyes narrowing. Now, Jackie, no fighting with the Inquisition of your boy toy, Fengi snickered as she too tucked in. My what? Don't mind her, she's just in need of stretching her wings a little, Essie interrupted in a calming tone, a warm smile on her face. No, I just wanted to make a little fun of Jackie, Fengi said, straight-faced, food still in her mouth. Kinda want to not worry about every word I say for a bit. Well, in that case, did you see Balathon is back? Jackie retorted, seeming rather unamused. Oh yeah, Saf said that. Where is he? Guard table, Saf pointed out helpfully, pointing with her fork. I still want to know where he got that little lizard at. Canabrera got it for him, one of the guards sitting at the end of the table said. Saf, looking down and recognizing Odante, the archer she had battled with back in the spring. Hi there, Saf went with a wave, happy to see the old woman again. Hello. Canabrera got it for him as a present, I believe. Well, you mean she left him with it? Tyrox, the little energetic guy, added with a laugh. Well, the thing was probably expensive. It's a kind gift. Expensive to care for, you mean? I bet you she got it for free. It belonged to that mercenary you guys saw go splat. Tyrox snickered. The little guy gamely stealing a slice of bread from his neighbour despite being 2 heads shorter than both the women on either side of him. Apparently it's called Skitters, Odante sighed with a shrug. Oh, right, Saf let out, staring into the middle distance for a second. Well, is it sweet? Oh no, it's terribly behaved. Bites at ankles and ears and has a horrible temper, Odante replied, shaking her head once and taking another bite of bread, noticing she was missing a piece and glaring at Tyrox. Ha! I know he has to take care of it, Fengi added with a smile, gesturing with a half-full spoon. I bet he's going to get into so much trouble with that thing. As long as it doesn't end up breaking anything expensive, Saf shrugged, looking up to see Tom glancing around looking for a seat. There were some free at the crafter's table, but their own was full. He seemed to think for a second before his shoulders slouched a little. They began walking towards the kids' table to sit down. "Someone is tired of answering questions," Saf let out, nodding towards the human. "Yeah, they've been at it all day. And most of yesterday," Jackie added with a grumble. "Jackie, you better give him a quiet evening. No dumb schemes or brainless ideas." "No, yes, you won't. Inquisitor is having a chat with him in the library after this. Closed doors. Heard it when they were putting shite in your bunker." Tirox added in a whisper. There's still carriage to the whole table. Oh, shit," Jackie let out as she looked up, glancing between Tom and the Inquisitor, who was sat down at the Biasmati family table. "Well, at least he wormed his way out of her questions for—" "Oh, no, you don't," Jackie continued. Saf looking up to see Adita walking towards the kids' table with a big smile on her face. "Now, Jackie, before you— never mind," Saf tried, as Jackie got up, taking her food with her. Essie and Fengi just looked at each other before scooting together, making use of the newly found space. "Should we go over there too?" "Don't bother, this was always going to happen," Essie replied, not seeming overly concerned. "Maybe you'll take that Artificer's mind off asking questions for a little bit, in order to figure out how to appease an angry Jackie," Fengi sniggered, also looking over at the kids' table. "She didn't strike me as one with overly many social skills," Saf admitted, before going back to her food. "Do speak up if something interesting happens. I want to eat while it's still hot." "So she's like your assistant too?" Kieran asked, as soon as Tom had finished explaining who the woman in the workshop had been. "Yes, Kieran, she's my assistant too." "But I'm still First's assistant, right?" "Of course, little fella," Tom chuckled, ruffling the little guy's head. Kieran letting out a little happy shriek. "Is this where you normally sit?" Adita then asked from behind him. Tom let out an internal sigh as he tried not to wince. "Yes?" "You sit with the children? Fascinating. Is it because there are many ideas?" "No, just sorta ended up being tradition. I started out on nanny duty here," Tom replied reluctantly. "You're kidding. They had you watching the kids?" "What's more important than the future generation?" Tom replied, paying more attention to his food. "You seem slack-eared all of a sudden. Something wrong?" "Might just need some time to think before Jelena goes through my noggin, that's all. Maybe you could sit with the craftspeople for now. I'm sure both Tink and Shiva have a lot of questions." "He's doing a big think," Kieran declared loudly, before climbing up into Tom's lap and looking at Adita defiantly. "Who are you?" she replied, staring down at the kid, clearly more confused by what she was seeing than anything else. "I'm Kieran, Tom's bestest friend." "Oh, hi, I'm Adita." "Hi," Kieran replied pointedly, chin raised. "Tom is thinking. I can answer questions." Tom had to do his very best not to giggle at that, as he hid his face in his hands. "Okay?" Adita questioned, looking like she had no clue what's going on. "Or you could just leave him alone for a bit," Jackie then said. Tom shooting up and turning to look at her, not having heard her approach. Kieran for his part latched onto Tom's chest, hanging there, maintaining his stare at Adita the whole time. "Oh, you're the Smith's daughter, right?" "Yes, I'm also his girlfriend," Jackie replied in a familiarly unfriendly tone. "Oh shit, here we go," Tom cursed to himself. "What does that mean?" Adita asked, tilting her head and looking at Jackie. There was no sass or sarcasm to be found in her tone, just genuine confusion. It would seem Jackie, just like Tom, had not quite been ready for that reply, as they both stared at the Artificer for a second or two. "It's your bestest girlfriend," Kieran let out, with an over-exaggerated sigh, like anyone should know that. "I see. No, it means I love him and he loves me," Jackie corrected, after taking a few seconds to get back on track. "And he needs just a little bit of peace and quiet right now, I think." "Love him? I mean, love his work?" "Oh boy," Tom mused to himself, not sure if he should find the current situation funny or scary, as Jackie stared down the Artificer, a hint of a snarl creeping onto her face. "No, you?" Two Eyes spoke up, raising her spoon and waving to Adita, getting her attention. "Love is when two people like each other so much they want to stay together forever and ever." "No, that's marriage," Holly corrected, launching a mini argument on that small topic. "My mum and dad are married." Adita just looked more confused, and Jackie was clearly fuming. "Okay, I think, Adita, you should just go over there and sit with Shiva and the other crafters. You'll get your questions answered, but maybe just wait till tomorrow, please. I have a feeling Jelena is going to be knocking me for a loop after this." "Oh, right," the Artificer let out in a low tone, looking really quite sad. Confusion clear on her face as she looked around at the kids, ears hanging down the sides of her face. "Go ask Tink or something, or maybe have a talk with Essie about what love is. I'm sure she would love that particular topic," Jackie added, putting an arm around Tom's neck and resting it on his shoulder, leaning in for a whisper. You need some peace and quiet for just a bit. Come on. Okay, right. She's coming over here. Make her some room or something, Fingy said, as the clearly lost-looking Adita apparently decided their table was the right one, walking over slowly with her food. At least Jackie didn't hit her, Saf sighed as she made room. Who's Essie? The Artificer asked, coming to a stop. That's me, Essie went, raising a hand. Hey, Jackie said I needed to ask you something. Can I sit down? Sure, Essie replied with a big smile, dressing at the by now many free spots as they all scooted away a bit more. Thank you, Adita went, with a fake-looking smile, her ears hanging too low as she set down the food before stepping over the bench and sitting down. She looked around at them all with a perturbed expression, eyes stopping on Essie. So, what is love? They had already quieted down a little, watching the exchange between Tom, Jackie and Adita, but now they were silent as they all stared at Adita. The woman clearly grew quite uncomfortable after all the staring, glancing from side to side, getting smaller in her seat. Oh, that's, Essie slowly replied, being not quite sure where to start with that one. Have you never really liked a person before? Felt like you would do anything for them? Fingy tried, leaning on her elbows. I don't think so. How is that even possible? Essie let out, looking like she regretted it immediately, covering her mouth. I don't know, Adita squeaked, shrinking down in her seat even further. No, it's fine. I've just never heard of anyone who's never been in love before, Essie replied in a careful tone, sounding like she was really trying her hardest to pick her words. Saf was just sitting there trying to work out how the hell an adult could not know about love. I love my work, Adita tried, equally carefully, looking like she hoped that was the right answer. Right, okay, that's a start, Essie replied in a kind, motherly tone, clearly thinking hard about her response. How many people did you grow up with? Saf then interjected, tilting her head just a little bit. Oh, hundreds, Adita replied, seeming more comfortable with that line of questioning. And for how long was that? As in, how old were you when you were sent off for training, or however that works? I've been trained from birth. Okay, that clears some of it up, Essie replied, looking like some pieces were at least falling into place. Why don't you tell us a bit about how it is, growing up as an artificer? I don't think I can, Adita let out sheepishly, shooting a glance towards where Jelena was sitting. Many secrets involved. Okay, so no details about secrets then. Did you ever get to play with other kids? Oh, yeah, plenty. We'd assemble things against the clock, compete for the best polish, play guess the Fred. Loads of fun stuff. You weren't kidding. How long did this go on? I mean, forever to an extent. Some people got sent off to other places. You lived your entire life where exactly? Ordante the Archer asked, tilting her head. The capital. I'm not saying more than that to you. Sorry. No, it's fine. I don't want to get shot in the back as I heard too much. No one is getting shot around here, Saf clarified, looking rather sternly at Ordante. But no secrets, if you can manage that. Ordante just shrugged, not looking overly bothered, as she took another bite of food. So you spent your whole life in one place with both guys and girls around, and no one ever loved anyone? I mean, we had good friends, but the machines are everything, Adita went, shoulders sagging a little, looking off into the middle distance. You're creeping me out just a little right now, girl, Seth let out reluctantly. But, sorry. No, don't be sorry, Essie tried in a comforting tone. So, no one was ever together? I don't get it, the Artificer let out, looking very sad. No one got married? Essie tried again, clearly grasping at straws. You mean to say lots of people in one place and no kids resulted? Fingy interrupted, sounding more than a little skeptical. Oh, no, we can't have kids. Wait, what? Essie blurted out, as he all stopped to stare at the Artificer. Adita just froze, staring around at them all, and looking almost scared. Did I say something wrong? Adita, where do you think kids come from? Outside, obviously, from the cities. A little more literally. When a man and a woman come to get... Right, that'll do, Essie interrupted, shifting a little in her seat. But you can't have kids. No. Is everything all right over here? The familiar voice of Investigator Paulin rang out with an air of authority. Oh, yes, perfectly, Seth replied with a forced smile. I see someone forgot how my ears work. Adita, you're at liberty to discuss your work with these people, not the inner workings of your order. Understood? Perfectly, ma'am. Very good. Carry on. It is not illegal for you to learn of the outside world any longer, after all. Yes, ma'am. You have got to be shitting me, Saf cursed to herself, looking after the investigator, then back to the scared-looking artificer. It's okay, we'll work it out, Saf tried, comfortingly, reaching over the table to take Adita's hand and holding it for a bit. We can just tell you everything we know instead. Jackie had come to the rescue in his hour of need. She whisked him away to their room to eat and just have a bit of peace and quiet. He hadn't said much aside from thanks as they both ate, trying to work out what he should do about an Inquisitor going to probe inside his head. The results had been pathetic. He had no clue what to do. Could he hide anything? Could she feel if he tried? There were always things one wanted to keep private. And what about emotions? Could she feel them too? So here he was, standing in front of the door to the library. He was fairly sure Jelena was inside, and he knew Jackie had followed him, likely dead set on trying to listen in through the door. It wasn't like he could stop her anyway. Swinging open the door, he was confronted by Jelena sitting in a puma's chair, and the armoured woman standing in the corner looking at him. So, is this the part where you go through my childhood memories? Some of them, maybe, Jelena replied, gesturing for him to come in. Tom complied, closing the doors behind him. Jelena, for her part, got up, tilting her head, looking him up and down. I will be completely honest. I first and foremost want to work out just where you are lying, and about what. It's clear you have ended up so deep in a web of deceit, at which you are hopelessly incompetent, that you have no idea how to get back out. Certainly a useful thing in some situations, but I would quite like the big picture. And if my memory serves, the fighting ends poorly, Tom replied with an understanding nod. Called a liar before sitting down. Strong start. Quite. I would also like to know if this would even work. You are everything but a standard subject, after all. Not scared you might fry mine, yours, or both our brains doing this? Then Costa had her doubts. I'm quite certain I'm safe, Jelena replied, with an ever-so-slight smile, gesturing at Puma's big chair. Marvellous, Tom replied, sitting down in the comfy chair. He knew Jackie was standing right outside the door by now, so a cry for aid would likely have him freed in short order. But he got where Jelena was coming from. She wanted to know if he was full of shit and what was actually on his mind. He would be pulling the same trick in her shoes right about now. So, as you have clearly heard, do not try to fight me or it may fry you, as you so eloquently put it. Do try to get comfortable. The rest won't be. I'll be going through the memories that are the most burned in. The big points, so to speak. Don't bother trying to hide anything. It will only draw attention to it. This better go in a damn good commendation that I'm doing this willingly. Ever tried reading the mind of a non-dragonette? I started with rats. Don't worry, I think you'll be quite different. And I do promise to try my best to make this less uncomfortable, Jelena replied as she leaned in over him, placing her fingers on his temples and forehead. What followed was a strange sensation, as Tom started feeling like he was drifting off to sleep. The strange spiraling colours one so often sees started to spring into his vision, even though his eyes were open. He decided closing them was probably a good idea, as he started developing a slight headache which quickly turned into a full migraine. He took a breath, clutching at the armrest of the comfy chair as the pain increased. Images started to form like he was in a lucid dream. Let's start from the beginning, he heard a voice boom out. It sounded nothing like Jelena, a deep, echoey tone to it that seemed to come from everywhere at once. He started seeing places he recognized as well as people. He felt something with each one. Hate, longing, happiness. The pain was still there like a bad migraine, but it was bearable. And this was certainly something. You are a natural, I see. Let it flow nice and slow, the voice boomed, as the pictures kept coming. Tom felt a spike of pain when they stopped on something before continuing, not a word spoken. Happy memories. Sad memories. All things he could remember to some extent from his past. Going to the beach with his parents. Falling off a bicycle when he was a little kid. Being bored in class. On and on they went, stopping on what he figured Jelena found interesting. A few were even replayed, like a happy memory of getting his first computer. Those hurt a lot. Like Jelena's fingers were driving hot nails into his skull. They just keep coming though, nice and steady. School days, good days and bad ones. All the memories becoming newer and newer. His parents aging before his eyes. His dad starting to fade away. He felt more and more sadness, not sure if it was the memories of watching his dad's mind breaking in front of him, empathized by all the bad times. His last day of work, the day they had to take his driver's license away. The last time he remembered who Tom was, and finally the day he managed to slip in the bath and break his neck. Jelena lingered on that memory. Tom didn't care why. nor did he care that it hurt. He just looked through his own eyes at his dad lying on the floor in the bathroom, blood pooling on the floor, and all he felt was relief. It was cruel. It was horrible. But it was likely the best day Tom had that year. 'Cause it was over, and his dad had been dead for a long time by then. Every day had been hell for both him and Mum. Especially Mum, and it was finally over. "You loved him, didn't you?" The voice rang out, sounding surprisingly tender and caring compared to before. Tom didn't answer, instead just staring blankly, knowing what was coming next. Next memory was his first day at boot camp. He needed to get away from it all, and what better place to do it than one where thinking got you shouted at. At least that had been the idea. It had sort of worked, just not quite how he expected it. He made some real friends there, people he trusted and felt he understood. None of the corporate bullshit and empty smiles. Just a bunch of dudes laughing at a racist joke because it was actually funny. "And there's the soldier," the voice rang out again, as the memories became less spread out, smaller things getting picked out, mostly about his training. Then came his first deployment, his mum saying goodbye with tears in her eyes. He knew she would be crying her heart out that night, all because he had to get away from it all. Jelena slowed down to a snail's pace now, the pain growing unbearable, as he felt himself writhe in agony through the sleep-like memory. "Shush now. I want to see this. This is new. You remember it well." Tom didn't share her enthusiasm, as he sat there powerlessly, staring at his old friends walking around, smiling, joking, happy. And she made him watch it all in detail. He tried to shout at her, or just do something, but he couldn't even move, despite feeling his body writhing and protesting in the chair. He started feeling tight in the chest, struggling to breathe as he involuntarily climbed back up into the passenger seat of the truck. No, please. No, please, no. "Why is this so vivid?" the voice asked, confusion showing as they drove along. Tom looking out of the window and not doing overly much. It was a quiet drive. Even sort of pretty if you liked barren dirt with mountains in the background. All Tom could do was stare in horror, heart in his throat, as he tried to remember what building it was. He fell as the explosion rang out, throwing him forward into the windscreen, the armored glass holding. He could feel the pain, every ounce of it, as he tumbled around the cabin before the truck came back down with a crash, Tom landing in the footwell. He clambered around aimlessly as his head cleared, blearily looking around the cabin. The driver was already opening his door, dropping to the ground. Tom could hear the shouting and scream from the back. He clambered over the broken seat to the door, fumbling with it before kicking it open, crawling out and half falling down into the sandy dirt. Looking up, he called out for the rest of his squad as he crawled along the side of the vehicle. "What happened?" the Inquisitor asked confusedly. Tom could feel himself starting to cry as the crater hove into view, along with the ruined rear of the truck. Tom propped himself up against it to look into the gaping hole of the shredded metal left by the IED. Then the gunfire began as he instinctively hit the deck, crawling into the crater and looking around for anyone he knew. Vigo was sitting in the dirt, leaned back against the wall of the crater and staring at him blankly. The white of his eyes was the only bright left in his blackened face. His pants were a ruined mess of black and crimson, laying loosely and holding the remnants of his ruined legs. Tom scrambled through the dust and dirt to his side, taking Vigo's IFAK and putting the lollipop in his mouth, looking for the tourniquet and starting to tie off the thigh. "Det okay. Du skal nok den. Det slet ikke så slemt." Tom could do nothing but watch himself fumble with the soon-blooded equipment, getting at his own kit as well to tie off the other leg, the gunfire deafening him as he scrambled with wet, gloved hands. He was stopped by a hand yanking him away, sending him to the dirt, looking up at Morton, his squad lead, standing above him. Morton went to speak, but suddenly the man's brains were blown across the crater, the once brave man collapsing into a pile at Tom's feet. He kicked and scrambled back from the dead man, looking to Vigo, who was just staring at the body while sitting perfectly still. Tom looked back towards the truck, seeing more men jump off and down into the crater as the bullets whizzed around them. All were injured to some extent, and there were a lot fewer coming out of the truck than had gotten in. Torben was shot in the shoulder as he jumped down, the Berevan man letting out a roar as he rolled around clutching the wound. Tom just sat there next to Vigo, watching his squad get torn apart and pinned down as they all huddled against the sides of the crater for cover. There was not an able body among them, some shouting into radios. Tom wondering where everyone else was. This was a convoy. Where the fuck was everyone? "You're fanden et allesammen!" he shouted out, looking around but receiving no reply. A mortar round missed their crater, deafening all of them for a second. "They fucking bomber us!" Vigo screamed out in panic as he clutched Tom's arm. "Jeg vil ikke, it'll hull!" Torben shouted out, rubbing in pain as dirt rained down over them, the incessant gunfire continuing, the vehicles behind them having pulled up and commenced fire on the enemy. Tom just patted Viggo's arm, not sure what that would do, before pulling free and calling towards Torben. "Jeg kommer!"